All right. Well, good morning, everybody. We are live on location here for our morning tribe talks. I'm here with Agent Tony, right? So
Live on location.
We are live on location.
Aren't you normally in a location?
Back up to you, Darren. So we are actually in one of our rehabs down here in Fenton that Tony has for us. So in the background, you see part of our new appliance and cabinets and all that fun goodies. But so already we're off to a good start, it looks like. We've been live on the market for, I think, about 2 hours. And we have 5 showings. So
no, you have 10 showings, one of which will be here in about 15 minutes.
So if you see people walking in the background, just know what's going on. All right, so
go buy it.
Well, you wouldn't want to buy it when a live morning show is being filmed in the kitchen. So,
and whoever stole my yard sign, I'd appreciate it back.
Yeah, someone stole our yard sign. That's
it's safe for you. I have it right here. I'll give it back.
Yeah, Darren, was it you? You're live now. You have to tell us. That's a guilty look if I've ever seen one. Well, Darren has the shirt. Unhappy Friday, smack, high five, virtual 5. So with us, we have today Miss Clea. So let me show everybody. Da-da. Here is your book. So we have the author, Clea, Untamed and Free, a true story. How a single mom survived a sex addict, a narcissist, and renal cell
carcinoma.
I didn't practice that, obviously. And we also have Clea's World. So this is her Facebook post. Oh, we should do it this way. Remember Wayne's World? Clea's World, party time. All right.
Are you doing like lines of Coke before you start the morning?
He's in a good mood, okay? He's excited.
How's your Friday, Darren? What have you done today?
I got up, I worked out, I'm working on laundry. I've had a couple phone calls already.
Good for you.
I mean, I'd be more excited than I am right now if I had 10 showings lined up. So, I mean, I get it.
All right. So today we are on day 4 of 4. So unfortunately, this is the last one in our series. So that's a little sad about it. But hopefully we'll have some good conversations and some good stuff to share today. So that all said, what are we sharing today, Miss Clea?
So we are going to talk, as we mentioned yesterday, about riding tsunamis, fear and riding tsunamis. And
damn it, I knew this one.
I didn't hear you, but it looks, you look excited. I love your Friday energy, your morning energy. This is wonderful.
Well, this is every once in a while they give me a live mic and I'm like talking through everybody else who's present. I'm like, damn it. Like, quit live micing me.
All right. So there are 2 main drivers to human behavior. One is fear and the other is love. Some people refer to these as pain and pleasure, but it's the same idea. Unfortunately, studies show that fear is a much greater motivator than love. In other words, we are much more motivated to run from fear than to move towards love. Ideally, this would be the opposite. We would be setting up our lives so as to maximize our happiness. But in reality, we set up our lives so as not to fail, as if failure were some danger akin to death. And there's no surprise then that so many people are afraid of taking risks that might even yield some really huge rewards, and that these people are so afraid of living out loud, as I like to call it. We believe that if we take care of the downside of life, things like having a house, cars, a good job, maybe a little money set aside, then the upside takes care of itself, and we magically are happy. Unfortunately, that's not what experience bears out. even people we sometimes personally know that have all these parameters in place and who are doing very well, they are still miserable. And why is that? It's because they're leading lives by default instead of lives they have deliberately designed to make them happy. So it's so I mean, it's we wonder. I mean, why don't people just so few people just sit down and take the time to envision what it is that will make them happy? As I mentioned, I have survived an actual tsunami, the tsunami of 2004 in Southeast Asia, where over 300,000 people died. However, the reason I've called today's session Riding Tsunamis is because I have gone through other events in my life that were just as dramatic for me, including having cancer, having separated from my ex-husband in the way that it happened, with everything that it entailed, and other things. Except that here I am, still standing and even thriving in the aftermath. So what is there to fear? I mean, you gain perspective as you go through things. So my point is that many of us are afraid of experiencing this life to the extreme, you know, to the maximum degree, even though we are very resilient. I was talking with you on the phone earlier this week, and you mentioned a word that I really like. You said that humanity is durable. We're a durable species. So why all the fear? I mean, what are we afraid that might happen? As I always say, you know, if I get to walk away from an experience and I'm still standing, and I do mean physically standing, if I have physically survived, then I'm good. You know, to me, it's just another adventure. And I mean, what is life if not one long series of adventures? I mean, what are we here for? Are we just here to work and eat and you know, and do it again the next day? That's not really a miserable life. That's not really a fun life. So my call today would be for people to really take the time to step away from fear, recenter, and think about, envision what it is that would make them happy, and then just go for it. Now, of course, make sure you don't crash and burn, right? So make sure you don't go bankrupt, you don't physically die, you don't hurt anybody else. But once that process is in place, then just go for it. I have to say that's one that Nike got right when it says just do it. That's really my motto. I'm like, just do it. You know, what's going to happen? So many people are afraid that something is going to break. But there's only two options here. Either something breaks that was supposed to break, and then you really just want to accelerate that process if it's supposed to break, because you want to stop walking around on eggshells all the time. As Tony was saying the other day, we walk around eggshells, and you're like, we're holding on for dear life to things that are not for our highest and greatest good. Or if something was not supposed to break and somehow breaks, then you have an opportunity to put it back together even stronger than it ever was. This is all growth, and we become more of who we were always supposed to be, so that we can live out our full potential. That's always what we're aiming to do, right? So as I always say, and I'm just going to close it on this, this is my favorite motto for myself, is that all happiness lies on the other side of fear.
I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a quote from somebody, isn't it?
I've seen variations. I've never seen it. I've actually Googled it because I was curious, and I've not. So it's not a quote that I'm using. Like
slap your name on that thing, man.
I did not come up with it. I mean, but it's the way that I like to say it to myself. I also say another way that I like to say it is that fear is a signpost for all things exciting lying ahead.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
So I could, you know, since you are a best-selling author on this and everything, I could do a recommendation for your second print instead of the fire and all that stuff. You could be on like a tsunami, kind of like Miley Cyrus, you know, I came in like a tsunami, you know, and that could be how it, yeah, we got this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on it. I'm gonna leave now and start writing, but yeah. No, you're absolutely right. In fact, that's a title that's come to me, which is Writing Tsunamis, because again, it's, we all believe we're much more fragile than we truly are.
Well, that could be a good podcast for you. So I have to ask, since I kind of do this, on an actual tsunami, the physical tsunami, right? Are you in a house? Are you in a tall structure? Are you in a basement? Where do you go?
I was in the water. Yeah.
You were in the water.
And actually, I happened to be, so there is no safe place in a tsunami. Because I thought, oh, if you're in the water, you're fine. So I got lucky I was in the water. No, because I met a man. He was a master scuba diver. I met him at the airport as we're being taken, away from the place. And this guy, I looked at him and said, oh, good. He said, I had 15 divers with me. And I said, oh, good for you. So it must have been fine. And he said, I lost each one of them. I lost 15 divers. And the reason is that tsunamis, even though the water looks flat and calm, it's very deceiving because the current underneath can go up to speeds of like 100 kilometers, which is about 600 miles. So it will drown you. You will actually drown in water. It's, even while you have your oxygen tank on. So I was in water, but the reason I'm alive is because I happen to be, and I'm telling you, I know I'm lucky. I know it. I happen to be in a rock formation, in a natural rock formation, where these huge boulders coming out of the water. The water was very shallow, was up to my waist in some parts. And even then the current was sucking you under. We almost drowned several times with my friend, just from being even in very shallow water. But what happened, because of this rock formation, we were protected from the worst of it. And that's how we survived it. Yeah, it was just timing. Half an hour before this happened, we happened to be having breakfast on a stilt construction, half in the water, half on the beach. And by the time we got back to the mainland, after everything had calmed down, all of that was gone. There was nothing left. Not the hotels, not the buildings, not nothing. There was nothing else. I left. I was in Phi Phi at the time, which is off the coast of Thailand. And it used to be an entire village of people and all these resorts. It was all gone.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was no warning. There was no noise. It just was a wall of water that just boom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 3-story high wall of water, and what it does is it builds in the open water, and then as it gets closer to land, it goes up. But as it does that, it pulls in all the water from the beach. So a lot of people actually died because they were walking in. They saw fish being stranded on sand, and so they walked in, because this is a phenomenon, right? They've never seen this before. Your mind doesn't even know, cannot even wrap around this concept. And a lot of people got drowned because of that, because basically the water comes in, pulls all the water back, and then it goes up, and this is like, in a few seconds it takes over everything. Some people saved themselves because they were fast enough to climb up coconut trees. And coconut trees, what they bent because they're not that strong, and then they came back. But some people think that you can only die from the water. So if you're done with that, then you're good. A lot of people were underwater. They did not drown. They actually got electrocuted, because there is so much stuff in the water, right? That can kill you, stuff that can hit you. Basically, as I said, they say was between 300 and 500,000 people. They don't even know the exact number, because entire villages in Indonesia were wiped out, where they don't even know how many people used to live there. And this tsunami started from an earthquake in Indonesia, in Banda Aceh. And for the longest time, so I could not watch TV. I don't know if you remember, there was a barrage, like they talked about it for months and months after the fact. And that's how a lot of us became familiar with the word tsunami. We didn't know it before. And I couldn't even watch these reports or watch, these people. There's been a movie made about this that came out a few years ago. I haven't watched the movie. Some people tell me it's good. I'm like, these are not fun things. Let's put it that way. You see things you never want to see.
I remember when it happened. I remember some of the stories and stuff from the newscast that came out. It was not like it was tragic. Like there's no other word for it. It was just horribly, horribly tragic.
Yeah. It makes you realize how small we are. At the same time, if we are this small and, it doesn't really matter what we do because anything can take us out like that. Again, why don't we just go for it? Why don't we do the things we've always wanted to do? We're always taught to be reasonable. You don't want to be reasonable in life. Yeah, take care of your downside. Absolutely. But you don't want to end up on the street if you screw up something, right? If things don't go your way. But then leave enough time for you to actually work on what you're passionate about, because you never know what might happen. If you don't start something, you will never know how it works out. I mean, I've done this. I have no idea how it will pan out. But you know what? All I can do is put something out there and then see what comes of it. I don't have a way of controlling how things go. All I can control is myself. What do I do? What actions do I take? It's about right thought and right action. People believe in the law of attraction, which is definitely a universal law, but there's also a universal law of action that we don't talk about. Again, help yourself and God will help you. You have to start, you have to at least initiate things. And you never know how it works. I always use the analogy of the dam. When you initiate something, you create a small crack in the dam. And after that, that's all you have to do, because after that, the pressure of the water makes the entire dam collapse. We are surrounded by energies that are so powerful that really sometimes about just putting yourself out there and starting something. And, the universe takes over and it takes you where you were supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Actually, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's more wise words. You just, you say so many great things. I just love hearing you talk.
I think that's just the accent talking.
Well, that too.
Whatever helps.
Hey, it works on the persona as a whole. So actually, I officially, like, what do you think about talking January, February at one of our MIT events? I would love to come up with a story. Basically, you're riding the tsunami, translated to real life. The sucking, the luck, the living it to the fullest.
Kind of like what
all
you
of
just
the
did.
Stuff. Yeah, but like
expanded.
more.
You have to take up an hour instead of 15 minutes.
But I think that would be awesome, because
I would love it.
There's so many good parallels to it.
Mm-hmm.
So Melanie just did a little bit of, your life, and then, you are your rehab. And that's a little bit of what I'll be talking about next week, is you are your greatest rehab. So
very cool.
I like to call it your greatest masterpiece. So that's actually not my line. Actually, Madonna said that a long time ago. She said, I am my greatest masterpiece. And we are. And you can treat yourself as a masterpiece. I mean, if you don't start, yourself, is what we were talking about 3 days ago. You can't expect the world to reflect that kindness back to you if you don't believe that you're worthy of it. That's why I always talk about, take care of yourself, have compassion. Tony and I were just talking about it before we started the live, that I'm going through a lull in my meditation, which is part of my self-loving practice. And you know what? My first instinct was, and I thought I knew better, but my first instinct was, what is wrong with me? I mean, clearly I'm a slacker and all of that. And then I realized, wow, that's not very compassionate. I'm going through a lot of stuff. Like, I'm dealing with a lot of things right now. And this is no excuse. It's not to say, oh, I'm busy. But really, mentally, I'm thinking of a lot of new things. I'm writing a workbook that will be a companion to my book. It's set to come out in the next few months. And I'm like, maybe I can cut myself some slack every once in a while. I'm still human.
I was going to say, slacker and you are two, like, not compatible things. That's like Darren and facial expressions. They're just not there.
You can. That's a facial expression. I saw it. I caught that.
I asked on my Facebook yesterday, I said, what does what does loving yourself mean to you? And I got 4 responses as of last night, and only one actually had acts of loving herself as part of it. Somebody said they had no idea. Someone else said, when something, fill in the blank, when this happens, then, and then the 4th person just kind of went a little bit of a different direction, but only one was like, I like to color my hair. I like I don't know.
Buy the damn lilies, right?
That's
and
right.
Then,
Well, not exactly, but that was close enough.
something.
It's I also appreciate the person who said I don't know, because everything we want to change starts with self-awareness. The fact that she was open, she even responded to your post saying I don't know. You know what, she's opening her eyes. That's all it takes. Sometimes self-awareness itself is enough. It's a cure to the problem. Just becoming self-aware where something is originating from, the source of maybe a behavior that you have. Some other times is a first step, but it's definitely fundamental. So I like that.
I like that masterpiece comment, because you don't treat a masterpiece poorly. You do fabulous things. And if you add to it, you add fabulous things. So I love that concept. That's kind of, I'm going to kind of steal that for myself going forward here.
It wasn't mine anyway, so I
Like
stole it.
fabulous without spirit fingers. Fabulous.
See, I picture rhinestones or diamonds.
Like a cowboy?
No, not really with the denim. No, I think.
Oh yeah,
like
sing that.
spark-
Sing that, Kevin. Go.
I think more like the dresses that I walk into the stores and I'm like, I have nowhere to wear that, but it's beautiful. Finding places to wear that, to feel that way, or to find ways to feel that way that aren't dependent on that kind of a situation. I'm taking this very seriously. How can I utilize this?
Fabulous.
Fabulous.
I love it. The main thing is, what do we talk about? What do we think about? You can live your life not only taking care of business, because we don't have trust funds. We got to work for a living, right? But at the same time, you can kind of keep that in its own sphere without having it take over your entire life. And maybe you do spend your life in a more fun way, which is learning how can I be more happy while I'm chopping vegetables for the salad, or whatever it is. At the end of the day, it's about being present to yourself, not always living in these echoes of what we've done during the day or the stuff we have to do, the grocery list. And I say it absolutely without criticism for anybody, because I'm talking about myself, basically. I spent a lot of my life when I was working 18 hours a day where I couldn't switch my brain off. And it was horrible. I felt like I wasn't even alive. So it's important to be present as much as we can, and not in the future, not in the past. These are all stories. The future does not exist. The past is just stories we tell ourselves.
And leaving that past behind. But I like the stories thing. There was something else that I heard this morning. I love Stephen Furtick, and they put a little clips of his on Facebook. And one of the clips today was the story that you tell yourself is what you choose. If you don't want it to be ugly, don't tell yourself ugly stories. The same person can be in a situation and one person can be like, oh, that was an absolutely horrible experience. This was bad, that was bad. And someone else can be like, look, I came out of it with this, and this. Like you said, the story after the tsunami going through it, I'm sure wasn't all that great. But you're here with a story to tell. And it's a good story, and it's a strong story, and what was the phrase at the beginning? Happiness is on the other side of your fear.
A fear, yeah.
You can't get there if you don't have the struggle in the first place.
Yes.
We all want to do, we don't want the needs, we don't want the struggles, we don't want the difficulties, but yet that's what we can use to have the good stories on the other side. God uses those.
It's worth it. It is absolutely worth it. Now, I'm never going to be the one saying, oh, you should aim for the struggle so you can have, so many people after they go through something hard, they're like, oh, I'm so glad I went through that. I'm like, BS. Let me tell you the truth. If I could have kept my baby fat, in terms of, being my little bubble, hey, I'll take that. I don't have to be the most enlightened being, I don't care. But here's the thing. And I say that tongue in cheek, but the truth is, there is a purpose to the struggle. I always think of the analogy of the diamond. Diamond is just carbon that was, a rock that was under pressure for a very long time. That truly is how life works. Very often, if not all the time, the people that you listen to, the people that inspire you and move you, are the people who have very strong stories. But again, stories are just things we tell ourselves. That's why, for example, my boyfriend and I have this discussion sometimes. He says, we are the sum of our experiences. And I disagree with that. It doesn't mean that I'm right, but I disagree with that because I say, no, we're the sum of our stories. Because an experience is objective, but there's nothing objective in our lives. You and I could have gone through the same tsunami and we could have had two completely different versions about it. Mm-hmm. So what we tell ourselves is a story. It might not even be real. We have stories about when we were children. We don't even know if it was real. We don't know if it was reality or we dreamed it. But we tell ourselves these stories, and a lot of us get stuck on these stories. I read somewhere that nowadays therapists do something different from what they did in the past. In the past, if you had some big trauma that you were trying to get over, they would regress you, they would take you back there, you would talk about it for a long time, you would relive it so that you could technically, grow beyond it. Nowadays, some therapists believe that you're basically recreating the trauma over and over again by doing that. So what they do instead is don't go back there and reframe what happened. Because at the end of the day, you live based on what the story is of the event, not on the event itself. I find that there is some validity to that. It makes sense to me.
It does to me too, especially with some of the stuff that I've been reading and studying lately. It definitely makes sense.
To actually tie this in a nice little bow, think of that masterpiece that you guys are looking at, right? Your Mona Lisa. And then what do you see on the edges? Typically it's a frame. It's how they frame and reframe that position. So one of the stories that I often tell is like, who's the author of your story, of your life? Who is telling the story? Is it these other people or is it you? Who's writing your history? Are you the author? Are you making the decisions? You do have control of this stuff. If you don't like how the frame is on your storyline, then change it. You have the power to reframe your masterpiece and create yourself and put yourself in a better light.
I love that. That's wise. That's very wise. That was really, you taught me something.
Fabulous.
I like it.
Yeah. And it all went away there. Whatever wise word.
Clea, just for the record, we never tell Kevin he's right.
Sorry, I did not get it.
I have to actually splice Darren's words so I could get a good soundbite out of it. I'm like, yes, I got it. Just kind of, Kevin, you're not right. Perfect. Sold.
Well, and we do say, Kevin, you're not right pretty frequently. So there should be.
You just cut that out and then
It's all good.
See, that's how it works here in media, I guess. Huh? All right. Well, guys, happy Friday. Clea, it's been great having you this week. So I appreciate you being on and kind of sharing your life and your book and just your time with us. I think it's been pretty special.
Me too.
I find that it is curious, fabulous, wonderful. Everything that you're saying, without any context of anything we've been pushing into, aligns with everything we've been reading and studying, talking about.
Yep.
And it's really neat when the like-minded people are all kind of going in the same direction. That's kind of where some of the magic happens. You know, if we can share anything for you to help promote you and get your message out there, we would most certainly like to be a part of it. You have been good to us and possibly Darren with some of your... Yeah, I do it for the looks, Darren. That's really why I just
that I guarantee.
No, I know what you're doing. It's like a test, and you do this like every day. Am I paying attention? You always try to call me out on not paying attention. And how often does that really work for you?
50-50.
Not even.
Mm-hmm. He's in the background, like making copies and doing laundry.
Clea, thank you, and I hope you.
Way to clean that up, Tony.
I hope you'll continue to tune in with us on in the morning talk shows and just follow along with us. And we look forward to seeing you at some meetings.
Well, I want to thank you all for really, it's been so fun. Beyond anything, it's just been fun. You guys have such great energy, and it's what you were saying, Kevin, about, meeting with like-minded people. But I do want to leave this on a high note, which I think it's obviously not just us, right? I do believe humanity is ascending. And without getting too woo-woo here, I believe there is a major shift happening within humanity everywhere, not just in the United States, where people are more interested in going inside and figuring out, okay, what are we here to do, and actually taking charge of their own lives. And I think it's wonderful. And it's it could be a little intimidating at first, but I think it's wonderful. And we have help. So many of us, it's so easy to talk with other people about this. So I love it. You guys have a great platform. I think you're doing a lot of good, and I really appreciate it, and appreciate you having it.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, all right, guys. Have a great Friday. Thanks for being with us this week. That's your High Five Friday. And have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.